The Mystic Meals Podcast.
The Mystic Meals Podcast.
With your host, Chef Nikki Meow. We talk about food, life. Oh, and we also talk about...
Oh, yeah!
Baby. You better be ready. Right now, here's your host, Chef Nikki Meow. Get it, baby.
Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome back to another magnificent episode of the Mystic Meals Podcast with me. I'm your friendly neighborhood homegirl, Chef Nikki Meow, and on this episode, I am thrilled to have this Renaissance man with me today. He is a writer, he's a producer, musician. He is the founder of Disruptor Media Creations. I am so happy to have him here. So let's get him to the stage so we can hear all about him. Mr. Ryan Bifulco, let me bring you here with me. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Hi. Hello there.
Great to be on.
Can you hear me? Can you see me?
Yes, I can. I can see the cosmic background.
Yes. That's how we roll around here. We go to another dimension for a little bit. Yes. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. So I want to jump right into what I like to refer to as your superhero origin story. I want to know everything there is to know about you and how you became who you are today. But let's roll it back. Were you always into art, creation, music? How did that step into your life?
Yeah, great question. I remember when I was younger, maybe 7 or 8, I just somehow, I guess, stumbled into poetry, and I wrote some poems, and my mom got them published in a few different magazines. And, I kind of enjoyed that, and then kind of put that down for a while and didn't really create poems for a long time until recently, maybe in the last couple of years, actually started doing some, that type of a thing again. And on the creative side, I've always loved art and was always fascinated by it. But I think my career path took a entrepreneurial turn, and I kind of just all of a sudden went into the serious business tech mode. Sure. And just, went down that path. Got to do a little bit of creative stuff 20 years ago when I was podcasting. So that was fun. But for the most part, I'd say a lot of my career has been on the kind of business, tech, digital kind on of the side. Inside. Not as much on the artistic side until I'd say about 3 years ago.
Okay. Well, it's a lot like when you aspire to be a chef in a kitchen. Like, it should be your business to learn every single thing about the business so that you can really embody what that's going to be about for you as a founder, owner, entrepreneur. Like, the more you know about what everybody has to do, then the better, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a great point. As an entrepreneur, you want to learn the ecosystem and what's happening. And they always say, the best leaders know kind of how to do the job of the person, above them, to the side of them, the people that are reporting into them. And it gives you a different perspective on, what's happening. And I think you can unlock some opportunities that way.
Yes, absolutely. I think it's important to be able to relate to everyone working around you so that when they do encounter an issue, a problem, like, you're already kind of ahead of it because you've been there already and you know how to kind of steer them through and guide them because you already know,
Yes.
So that's great. That's great. What kind of a kid were you?
What kind of a kid was I?
Yeah. How would you describe yourself as a kid?
I had a great childhood, big Italian family, grew up in Jersey. Nice. And, so, we were able to play outside. I don't know if people still do that as much.
I know. It's so different now. Like, when we left the house, that was it. Like, no one saw us until like the lights came on, like the street lights. Then it was like, oh, we should probably go home. Yeah.
Exactly. But I think I always had that entrepreneurial spirit because I do remember one of the first business ideas that I had, we made big jugs of lemonade, and we got on our bikes and we biked it to the construction workers, and
Nice.
I had a little distribution system going
Smart.
there. So
Smart.
that
Yeah.
was, early on. So
Right.
my mind always, I guess, seems to work that way.
So it was always there. That's so cool.
Yeah, and I know you're a huge food person and a foodie and a chef, and it seems like we could talk about food all day. One of my first jobs was actually, I started out as a busboy, and and in the film world, one of the first jobs I had on set was I volunteered to be the PA because I felt very comfortable in that role, and it looked like a role where you could help out in a couple different departments. And as you were saying, you kind of get to learn, what is this person doing? What is she doing over there? What's he doing over there? What's happening over here? This is the lighting. This is this. What's the director doing? What's the DP doing? And with the PA role, I really enjoyed that. And it reminded me of way back in the day, coming from that sense of hospitality and starting out as the humble beginnings of the busboy.
Yes.
And then, ended up working my way up to the, waiter, and then podcaster, and interviewing the celebrity chefs on the Food Network, and and then, being in the kitchen with some of the most talented chefs in Atlanta and the top caterers, and, went down that path as well.
Yeah.
In a very fun, creative way.
Yeah, it's a very interesting labyrinth to stumble into, because it just, one thing just leads to another and to another, and you get to meet all these amazing people that are pirates and marauders and maniacs and all walks of life, but yet it's like you found your people, though, because you're one of them. And that's what I always loved about the restaurant business, hospitality business. It's like, it's kind of like this brethren. Like, if you tell someone that you've worked in the industry, it's like, oh, okay, like you get it, you understand. You have your bad apples in anything that you do, but it really does teach you about teamwork and camaraderie, and how important it is to have people working together in a constant collaborative effort. And that's something that I've always taken with me through my travels, through my life. Same. Is like I feel like when you're working with someone else and you're able to kind of ping pong back and forth off of each other and just create the thing, like, out of nowhere, it starts here and then here you go. It's great. It's great to see. So at least you have done enough thus far so that to where you are now, you are armed and ready to kind of put forth everything else that you have to unleash creatively, right?
Yeah, I would agree. I think if you've worked in the kitchen, or you've worked in the front of the house, the back of the house, below the line, above the line, crafty, hospitality, being the leader, being an entrepreneur, producing, directing, whatever that may be, there's a lot of common threads to what you were saying, and I've been very fortunate to have a few different career paths that I think have led me to where I am now. And I agree that having that, kind of the different perspectives of, okay, well, what is the boardroom perspective? What is the kind of the street smarts or the blue collar perspective? What is, how do you look at it from this side or that side? I think just as a preview for when we do start really talking about the food, I like to have layers. I think there's a lot of layers to things, and there's certainly a lot of layers to certain foods.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's layers to us as people. And I think as we go along in life, we kind of learn how to integrate everything about ourselves into what we do and how we present, right? For me, like, I've always led with cooking and culinary and all of that, but behind all of that, there's a whole nother world of creativity. Like you said, writing, art, music, interest in films, television, cartoons, comic books. Like, I mean, there's just so many things that embody you as a person. And I think as you get older and, you really want to step into that more and more. And that's kind of what I've spent the past 5 to 10 years doing, is really reintegrating all of my interests and the things that I want to do, and kind of branch out in a way that makes sense to me And I feel like as long as I'm being myself all the time, then eventually it'll make sense to you too, even though it might seem like, oh, what's this now? Like, here's a book and here's an entree and here's a podcast. And, like sometimes it might seem like it's hard to keep up with, but once you kind of get that about the person, that they are an entrepreneur and they are like, they like to, change their flow up with what they do, then I think it's easier to keep up with. Because now where you're at, you have a band, right? You're a musician, you're a writer, you're an owner, founder of a business. How do you feel about where you are in your life at the moment?
Yeah, and the musician one is interesting. I don't know if I would consider myself a musician. I don't know how to read music, but I do have incredibly hearing. My way to hear something that's
Right.
very, very delicate or particular, I think, is probably one of my superpowers.
Okay.
And so my role in the band is I'm producing, and I kind of consider myself the conductor.
Right.
And we've
So
got
you're kind
about
of like the Rick Rubin of the.
yes. It's funny you mentioned that because I don't have any musical training. Haven't really gone down that path, and so
Right.
as I'm kind of learning as I go,
Sure.
he's definitely somebody I've come across that says the same thing, that he doesn't really have the formal background,
Right.
and just has a strong sense of taste and style and curation, and
Right.
knows what he likes and knows what he doesn't like, and he's very confident in his ability to do that. And
Right.
I feel like I am similar in that way, that
Right.
I know kind of what I like and I know what I don't like. And if it's something that I think I feel very passionate or strong about, we say in the studio that if the hair stands up on your arm, I think that's a great take and we're done. We can move on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so
yeah.
if you have that energy moment where you feel, time stand still, and it was just an incredible moment,
Right.
whether it's, film or in the kitchen or in the music
Yeah.
studio, you
Yeah.
just kind of know that you've got it.
You've got it.
Yeah. So creatively, for me, it's been fun with the band. We've got about 10 different musicians, and most of them play 3 instruments. So it's kind of around 30 different instruments. And I
Wow.
can kind of say, well, give me a little bit of that flute over there, and
Right.
mix it up with that banjo over there, and put a little bit of pedal steel over here, and
Yeah.
a little bit of bongos in the back, and put that over there. So that's been really, really fun to kind of lean into that. And I've been passionate about music my whole life. So even though I haven't been officially in the music industry, I've been to so many live shows and have a lot of influences from different kinds of bands, and
Right.
whether it's the jam bands and going to the first 3 Bonnaroos back when it was more of a jam thing, and now it's kind of expanded a little bit and a little different. But back in the day, and in the olden times, it was the widespread panic, and
The old days of yore. Yeah.
yes, and it was a really fun thing, and just so mixing in a little bit of jam band, a little dash of gospel, and a little pinch of bluegrass, and a little bit of happy blues, and just get a little jambalaya going.
Yeah,
And
I was gonna say it's like a salsa, like a gumbo of stuff, a hodgepodge.
yeah,
of
and so
everything.
that's why we call the band jamKIND.
Right.
It's kind of a combination of a couple different
Yeah.
styles, and but it's a purpose-driven band, and we're really focused on harmony and really kind of using music as a way to kind of be a light in the world.
Yeah, I can definitely get the sense of that when I jumped on the website and I was like listening to like the little teaser trailers that you have there, and I was like, oh, this is really nice. Like it was just like happy, upbeat.
The website has been live for about an hour.
Yeah. Wow.
We basically put that up for you, and there we're officially
Oh, wow.
launching the
Awesome,
website.
awesome. Well, I feel honored then that I was one of the first.
Yes.
Yeah, no, it was really cool and fun to listen to. And, it just kind of brings you into a different, state of mind when you're like, oh, this is all right. I dig it. I feel it, because I'm pretty all over the place musically with what I have taste in, because it's like everything. I'm from New York, so, East Coast, we get, everything and anything was around us all the time, culturally, musically, everything. But now as I'm getting older, like I have more of an appreciation for, I guess, more of like the mellower stuff that's just a bit more like not as like aggressive. But I mean, I still listen to my metal and all that stuff. You know, but I really did enjoy it and I appreciated it. And I was like, oh, they sound so happy. Like they're just like, let's just make music and do our thing. That's great.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting about those first two tracks, I kind of had a vision for the slower track, the one you're talking about, the chill kind of track. I told the band we're going to play this song in the Ryman. It's an old church in Nashville and an incredible venue. And I was very fortunate to podcast 20 years ago from Johnny Cash and June Carter's, dressing room. And
wow.
I think seems like I was probably one of the first people to podcast from the Ryman because nobody knew what it was. So if they didn't know what it was, chances are, if they knew what it was, I would have been the 10th person. But I was doing that way back when. And for that particular track, there's just something really magical and special about that track. It's called Tree Dala. And I just kind of had that vision of the stained glass, window and the light coming through, and just kind of reminded me of the Ryman from the very beginning when we were kind of putting that track together. So we kind of almost started from the mood and the vibes and the vision of where we were going to be playing.
Right.
Before the track was even created, we kind of started at the Ryman and kind of worked backwards. My mind doesn't typically work in a very conventional fashion.
No, mine doesn't either. I sometimes I'm starting from the middle and then like I kind of work my way. Like
you're fast forwarding and you're rewinding and
I'm like, okay, I guess this is what we're doing. Yeah,
exactly.
So it works because you get there eventually. But
yes, and so that track was meant to be a little bit, lighter and slower and intimate and not heavy metal, and just a little bit of a nice track with a little bit of a beautiful cello on there and a little bit of the organ. And so it's just a very pared back track. But then we add in those different layers as different instruments kind of get introduced and
you up the emotionality.
Yes.
And back. Yeah.
And I mean, that cello really does pull at your
it does. I mean, there are certain
there.
Instruments that really just kind of do it for you. The violin, of course, the cello, piano, a good banjo. I love. I used to play clarinet in school, so any woodwinds, when those are there, I'm like, there they go. So I do have a great appreciation for what they bring, and the French horn too. The French horn's another one that like really invokes a lot of
probably
feeling.
An underappreciated, underused instrument.
Yes. It's just there's just something about it, like when you hear it and how it soars. There's just something to that instrument just on its own, and then when you pair it with an orchestra or an orchestrated, musical, accompaniment or whatever, it just really it could really change a person's feeling, their mind, like bring them out of like a state or put them in one even, you know what I mean? That's what I mean. Like when I was listening to it, I was like, oh, this okay. Well, this is what we're doing today.
Exactly. And I think to set the mood, right. You're in an audio studio, and a lot of times it's in a certain location where maybe there's not a ton of windows, or maybe it's in a dark basement or whatever the case may be, because it's a soundproof room typically. Right. And so I'm like saying to the band, okay, this other track, I'm so happy that you were mentioning that one was more, hey, we're gonna play this at Red Rocks, and this is have some fun and jam out and just chill out, and it has that upbeat vibe to it, but it has that kind of summer outdoor.
I was gonna say it kind of felt like I was like at the park.
Yes.
Like when they do like the summer in the park stuff, and you're listening to a band, and you don't know who they are, but you're just kind of vibing, and you're on your little sheet with your little food, and you're just kind of enjoying that feeling. You're creating that moment. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, because you have to set the tone either way. Like because you don't know what's going to happen. Like what you want to happen when you're in the studio, but what actually is going to happen is like that's just a whole other thing. Like almost out of your control even.
And sometimes the happy accidents end up being, some of the
Yes.
gold, right?
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. And same thing with cooking. Like sometimes some of the things that go wrong are the things that allow it to go absolutely right the next time around. So being able to be adaptable, I think, is important, and pivot and like know when to like, okay, all right, let's try something else, or like even knowing when to pause. Like just be like, okay, let's just take a break. let's come back in a little bit. Let's all do what we need to do, and then come back and then try it again. Because sometimes the vibe isn't there. Like you're trying to do it, and then it's just not happening. You're just like, all right, well, okay, let's just call it. Come back later.
Yeah, or the recipe didn't turn out the way you wanted, and you got to maybe put a little twist on it, or the execution. It's a great recipe, but somehow it didn't go the way maybe you wanted it to go.
Yeah, like something just didn't it just didn't mesh, or maybe it got overdone, or you walked away, or something. It could be something so small that really changes the whole thing. But at least in that process, what happened. So it's not like you're sitting there even like really focusing on the problem itself, because you jump right to the solution. You're like, okay, so how are we going to fix it? Like, what
you can get some truffle oil and fix it usually.
Exactly. Just put a little sprinkle of this, a little of that. We'll be okay. Yeah. But it's just, I think as with anything that we do, knowing how to season, knowing when to, say when is also the thing. Because I feel like as creative people, I know for me, I always have to force myself to pump the brakes on stuff sometimes, because nothing's ever really finished, is it? Like, is it ever really done? There's always like an afterthought of like, oh, wait, you're like, it's done. Leave it alone.
Yeah, that reminds me of the Bob Ross painting, right? Where there's always putting in an extra tree or an extra bush, and you thought he was done, and then an hour later
you just decided, no, this is what we're doing now. I love Bob Ross, love him. He was one of my favorite things to watch on PBS when I was little, because he was just so like, he just made you believe, man. He just is like, it's your world, you do what you want, create it. That's where that tree is gonna live, and that's where that lake is gonna live, and he made you feel like you could do it.
Yes.
And I think that's really important to kind of keep that kind of candle lit for other people, is like that belief in themselves that they can do it, even though you probably feel you can't. Sure you can. Of course you can. You may not be able to do that, but you can do that.
Yes.
Whatever that is for you. So I think it's important to keep like creating and putting that out there, and kind of just, being the example of what we want to see, especially now with everything going on in the world. Creativity, I think, is the biggest and best way that we can fight the fight, is just to continue, keep living and keep putting it out there, and, hopefully bring in some inspiration to somebody, make them smile, make them feel good for a little bit, so they can kind of escape from the madness of their life and everything. So then how did Disruptor Media Creations come to be?
Yeah. So, about 3 years ago, I started the company, and we actually started out as Disruptor Media, and recently changed the company name, rebranding to Disruptor Creations.
Okay.
There's actually, if you Google, there's a bunch of Disruptor this and Disruptor that, and there's a lot of other.
There's a lot of disruptors out there.
Yes, there certainly are. But so I felt like, when you say the word disrupt or disruptor, sometimes that can have a very like tough connotation.
Yeah.
And I wanted to pair that with an artistic creations, is kind of artsy and a little bit softer. So
the juxtaposition.
We're kind of smashing things and rebuilding things, right. But then the creations kind of brings it around. So it's the combination of those two words, I think, is really embodies what we're doing. Mm-hmm. And so I think I had kind of that artistic awakening. I went to Art Basel and really just had an amazing experience and met a lot of great artists, and it was just an incredibly inspiring, experience.
Yes.
And then I wrote my first script, and that was a feature comedy that Disruptor is going to be producing shortly down the road. Mm-hmm. And I just kind of started getting into the industry and figuring out, okay, I've been doing some of these things that it seems like the producer job does. I've been doing them outside of the film industry.
Right.
And it just
but
seems like,
yeah,
I've already been doing some of that. And then you kind of just see what, like you said, what translates to some of those skill sets and leadership and organization and working with teams and creativity and having that, sense of the business acumen that's required, and as well as the creativity. And so I noticed that at the time, this was 3 years ago, there were executive producers, and it seemed like there was quite a few of those folks that were investors. And then there was a producer, and some of the producers are creative, and some of the producers are doing different functions.
Right.
And so I decided to kind of come up with a new role and a new title that was more suitable for my skill set. So I came up with the accelerating producer, which is kind of combining the creative artistic energy with that business acumen. And the first 5 TV and film projects that I worked on, the IP holder, whether it was the director, the producer, whoever it was like, "Hey, Ryan, would you do me a solid as a friend? And could you do could you do the producer's pool and the cap table and the investor's pool and figure out all that stuff?" And
right.
Coming from the startup world that I've been in for the past 30 years, I've done lots of different cap tables and kind of live the Silicon Valley, if you've seen my TV
You've
show.
worn a lot of hats. Yeah.
I've lived that, in real life, that type of energy. So that comes very, easy for me to do those things. And so that's where that accelerating producer kind of came. And we really do like to help out where we can. And sometimes maybe some of the business and the leadership and the financial help is needed. And then other times it's, working collaboratively with the creative team and seeing where we can add value.
Right. So again, like it's very like you're still positioning as kind of like the Rick Rubin, where you're just kind of helping everything come together as you see fit, like just in your own way that again might be unconventional, but it makes sense for you and how you work. And therefore everything around you is going to pretty much become that anyway, because that's the energy that you're putting out and putting into it. So I love that title. That's so cool because it's different and it kind of sets you apart from like producer, like it's just like, oh, what's that? What is that exactly? Yeah, it's intriguing.
I think you're right. Just like Rick Rubin, there's that sense of taste or that sense of curation, you're at the art gallery and there's the curator of the gallery and they are selecting these over here, and then they're putting that other stuff in the back with the Ark of the Covenant is in the back. The dust, and then they're pulling it out, as needed for special exhibits. And I think having that sense of taste and style and artistically, it's a little bit more of this and a little bit less of that, and that comes very very easy, for me, and so I'm kind of leaning into that, right? So that tends to be where people are saying, "Oh, I think I understand what you're saying. Let's put a little sprinkle of the CRP. Let's put a little sprinkle of the crushed red pepper over here, and let's put a little bit of this over there." And it's funny, I use food analogies quite a bit when I'm explaining things in the kitchen and the walk-in cooler and all. It just makes it easier to explain.
It also it's relatable though to people because most people do cook and they are familiar with the process of it. So if you use something that is easier for them to understand, because a lot of people are visual learners, and if you're not able to present them with a visual like demonstration then and there, at least the metaphor can bring the visual for them so that they can connect to what you're saying. So that, okay, now you get it. We're here together, and now we can go on. And that's something that I always aspire to throughout my travels in the culinary industry, is being able to be on that kind of like Jedi level of being able to walk into the room, assess the whole situation, and adapt to it. Be able to engage with everybody from all different walks of life. And if there is something that maybe someone is struggling with trying to figure out, being able to be the one that go, "Oh, just do this. Like try it this way," and then or you just kind of come along, you just kind of tilt their head a little bit. You're just like, "Look at it this way." What about that way? It's a very subtle thing, but I think it's also, it takes a long time to get to that place where you're able to do that confidently because you've experienced it.
Yeah,
Like
it's funny. You don't have to, at a certain point, when you don't have to Google it, right?
Right.
So it's like if there was a band member that maybe wasn't in the earlier session and maybe missed some of the energy or missed some of the thing when we were creating the beat or whatever it was.
Right.
And then, it'll just be counting them in and tapping it in and figuring out how to get that harmony of the different pieces of the sound, right? And the same thing applies to the kitchen. The same thing applies to a film or creating with a team.
It's like knowing when to jump in. Like, okay, it's kind of like when like the merry-go-round is already going and you're like running and you gotta like grab the pole and just kind of pull yourself on. It's like, it's so similar to that where you're like, okay,
yes, it is.
Let's go. We'll work it out when we get there. But yeah, I hear you. But that, I think that's important too, to know how to pull everyone together without making anyone feel uncomfortable or any more uncomfortable than they might already feel. Just getting them to like be at ease with what the situation and what's happening. And like, yeah, like maybe we did kind of jump ahead, or maybe you weren't here for this, but this is where we're at. And, again, I think it's just with kindness and respect and, with care to everybody. And I think that's how you really get the best out of everyone around you, is by letting them know that you hear them, you see them, and we're all on the same team here. Like, we're trying to get to the same goal, like we're working together. So I think that's always great to reinforce no matter what you're doing in your life. So that's awesome. So there's so much going on. That's so exciting. What about, let's see here. So I was told that you were on a plant-based diet.
Yes.
Is that something new for you, or has that been something you've been doing for quite some time?
I've been on the healthy side for a very long time and been plant-based, I want to say since 2018, maybe, something like that. So it's been a minute.
Yeah.
And working in the kitchen and working, with food. I think we have a little bit of an unfair advantage, because if you're going to make some of those choices, but you can, prepare things a certain way that you like it, and maybe you don't have to only rely on DoorDash or something like that. So it hasn't really been that challenging of a transition for me, because I kind of have taken a lot of my Italian grandmother and family recipes and kind of reinvented them, and making my favorite sausage and peppers and meatball parm and things that I grew up with, and just kind of putting a little twist on them and reinventing them, but still making sure that they have the flavor profiles. And it turns out that the reason that you sometimes like a dish is not just for the chicken tikka masala, but it's the tikka masala. It's not, could be chicken, but it could be 10 other ingredients, with the tikka masala part being the constant flavor profile.
Exactly.
So it's just kind of taking some of that. And so actually working with a lot of chefs and helping them come up with some plant-based recipes, and taking an incredible chef that is doing, a jerk chicken or a jerk salmon, and working collaboratively with them and coming up with a jerk veggie version of that, but it still has the amazing flavor, and it'll still
it maintains the
burn
integrity.
the roof of your mouth. It'll still burn the roof of your mouth off but still has that amazing flavor, right? So I feel like a lot of times you're going out to restaurants and it's just like, oh, let's just give these vegetarian people, let's give these vegan people, let's give them an Impossible Burger and call it a day, or give them,
it's just a plate full of
tofu. It's give them tofu, and it's like, and then the flavor is compromised and it's watered down, and it's just like whatever.
Right.
And so I really try to focus on the flavors and infusing all of that awesome flavor stuff into whatever it is you're doing, and instead of using chicken or steak, there's a variety of different things, if I'm using a jackfruit here or
Yeah.
a hearts of palm there, whatever the heck it is.
Yeah.
You can't just, especially with something like that, you can't just do that. Like
you've got to.
Yes. Yeah. So I actually think it's been challenging as a plant-based chef and person that's cooking these kinds of things. You've really got to make sure that you've got the flavor in there.
Yeah.
Because if you've got an incredible steak with the gristle and everything, sometimes you don't want to do too much with something like that.
Right.
Whereas if you've got a boring vegetable, you've got to jazz it up a little bit.
Yeah. I think and the advantage as well that we have is not only just knowing how to put those things together, but how to maintain the integrity of every ingredient that is involved. And that was something I learned years ago when I was working for Rick Bayless, because with him, like every single ingredient that we used came and was sourced from somewhere, either a village in Mexico or a local farm in California. And it just had this whole lineage to it. And one time we had gotten garlic from some farm and it kept oxidizing. Like we peeled the garlic and the garlic itself kept turning like this turquoise tinge on the outside of it. And it was bugging the crap out of him. Like we couldn't figure out like, why was this happening to this particular type of garlic? So he took the time to go into where he was buying it from, the terroir of the land, the soil, where it was. And then that was the culprit, was the soil that the garlic was grown in was having some type of a chemical reaction with the water that we were using to clean the bulb. That was just one thing, and that just it took the whole recipe and made it into something else, because now it was like, respect the garlic.
Yeah.
But that's really how you need to treat every ingredient, whether you're using meat, vegetables, seafood, like whatever. If you know how to cook it and make it shine and still have it make sense in a way where like you're also really not missing the meat either, where you're not even thinking about it. Like when you're like, I think that's kind of like the trick to it too, is to present it to someone and they're not thinking, oh, no vegetable. Like it's like they're just looking at it like, oh, this is a beautiful dish. And then you eat it all together, and then you kind of remember maybe how much you really do enjoy vegetables and how maybe you've never had them this way before. So I really think that now, from what I'm seeing anyway, it's a lot of that is getting better and better with how they're creating the food. And like I said earlier, it's not like just a plate full of sides where it's like an afterthought, like, oh, here, give them the this and the that and the zucchini and the whatever. And, and then you're like, oh, thanks. Like you want everyone to have the same experience. Like we should all be able to kind of, taste this, taste that, and, have it be like this communal thing. So now do you feel different in your body eating the way that you do? I mean, do you feel like lighter, cleaner? Do you have more energy? What were some of the things that you felt you had to just completely eliminate from your diet?
In general, I'm a biohacker, so health and wellness is important, to me, even beyond just food. But so food would be, obviously, it's a huge part of health and wellness. And so I do feel like I do have that extra sense of energy, that extra burst of energy. I don't have, some people talk about the brain fog or those kinds of things. So I eat very clean. Of course I have, sometimes I'm having the guilty pleasures and those kinds of things, of course. But in general, really, I do, focus on, health and wellness, and food is a huge part of that. I do some intermittent fasting as well. Yeah. And that I think really helps me to stay in that healthy zone.
Right. Do you would you consider yourself like a intuitive eater?
I guess maybe to some extent.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
Yeah.
like, like when, I mean, I've kind of leaned very heavily into that over the past few years. And it's really just more like paying attention to your body's cues of like the things that you're craving. And even if it may not be something that you should be eating, it's like, why are you gravitating towards that? Like, what is your body lacking? I can say like, it might be TMI, but when there's a certain time of the month, I notice like I really need like more iron rich foods and more like, I can sense it. I can feel that coming on. And that's kind of like my PMS. It's like, it's the build up to that. So like, I know that I need to start amping up on those things so that I don't feel so depleted during that time. Also just like knowing like when I'm craving certain fruits and vegetables, like, oh, okay, so I might need more beta carotene. I might need more of, like lycopene and all that kind of stuff. So that's what I mean, like by like intuitively, just kind of like, okay, like I'm going to do this today because I feel like, that's what my body is craving. So do you feel that your diet is contributing to your overall well-being and longevity of life?
I do, and beyond. So plant-based would be one component of it, right? But a lot of people think, oh, well, you're eating vegan or you're eating plant-based, but of course there's vegan junk food, and there's all kinds of.
A lot of that food is processed too, though.
Yes,
it really is. Yeah.
So really, just because you're not eating meat doesn't necessarily mean you're eating, as healthy as possible.
Right.
So I do try to. That's why I guess they say eating clean is maybe a little different than just certain interpretations of things.
Right. No, it's like it goes back to what you were saying, how like you're reinterpreting your old family recipes by still keeping the integrity of the flavors and the textures that you grew up with, but you're pivoting into a different way of cooking them. Maybe you're not deep frying in all the oil, like you're shallow frying maybe in like a good quality oil, or you're just you're using the same backbone but in a different way. And that's something I've also adapted to over the years as well. Like, I'm just cooking cleaner. I'm cooking wiser. I'm cooking with more intent to what it's going to give back to me, rather than feeling like I just had a Thanksgiving meal and now I'm just sitting here like, like, you know what I mean? Like just full and just like you're ready to take a nap. Yeah. So I absolutely get it for sure.
I think there's also a functional component to what I'm doing as well, and so I'm being very intentional about the ingredients.
Right.
And so in addition to being plant-based, I'm kind of working in, it might be the purple potatoes or, some of these items that are, known for being, cancer fighting foods or super healthy superfoods or whatever the case may be. So I'm kind of working in, functional mushrooms and those types of things into my diet as well. So I feel like that has also played a part in, I like to say, feeding 5 birds with 1.25 seeds. So if I can kind of weave in, a couple different things and kind of check off a few boxes simultaneously, that really kind of elevates the nutritional, density of the dish.
Right. Well, I mean, it allows you to get the most out of everything that you're doing. And I think it also kind of bleeds over into the other areas of our life as well, because again, like as we go on, I think we become more and more aware of what we ingest everywhere. In everything that we do, not just what we eat, but what we consume with our mind, our eyes, and our feelings, and, just being able to kind of manage everything in a way where it's balanced across the board as best as possible. And I think that's really where it starts. Like you start, like, again, like you kind of start in the middle with the belly, and then you just kind of branch out into everything else going on in your life. So let's talk about maybe some of, what would you call a guilty pleasure meal?
I would say one of my favorite snacks actually is, we were just talking about healthy and everything, but like I love the plantain chips.
Yes.
And even though most of them are not avocado oil, right? Everybody's big on avocado oil. My brother is just like the king of avocado oil. That's his thing. But the plantain chips with a little bit of the salt and I like the crispy, the
good.
crunch. So that's certainly like a comfort food, kind of a guilty pleasure snack. I do like, I've kind of reinvented like the meatball parm sub, but it's still plant-based, but it just kind of has that comfort food, reminds me of my childhood and growing up in Jersey and eating eggplant parm subs and chicken parm and meatball parm and parm anything.
All the parm, yeah.
It's all the parms, right?
All the parm, yeah.
And I'm definitely a bread snob, right? So my family, we're very particular about our bread.
Yeah, I know.
And so it's got to be like that, the baguette, type, the ciabatta
very
type.
Particular,
right?
Yeah,
you got to have the real bread. If you're gonna have a sub, you can't just have like the bread that they have at certain chain restaurants. I'm not going to name names.
No,
but
I know.
Those are too soft and not
it
quite.
Doesn't have the same integrity as like the Italian bread like I'm used to from back east. It just kind of has that. It's almost like how like banh mi bread, like if it's not cracking and getting all over you, it's not done right.
Yes.
It's kind of like that, where it's like it has that like crunchy like sturdiness on the outside, but it gives you what you need in the center, and like it doesn't like dominate the whole thing, like some breads are just really dense and it's just like you're fighting with the bread and like, to get to what's inside, like, so I can appreciate the bread that just kind of just hugs everything and just brings it in.
And it does its job, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like it shouldn't, I mean, we're part of an ensemble here.
Yes.
Absolutely. All right. So this is kind of, when I ask this question, it gets a little lost. I'm going to try to word it properly. If you could describe your life right now as a buffet, like what would be in abundance and what would you say is missing?
That's a great question. So I would say right now, I guess the buffet is like a buffet in Vegas, right? There's a lot of stuff going on, and there's this action station over here. Right. There's a carving station over there. Right. There's a pasta station over here.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of different cuisines and a lot of things happening. So we have Records by Disruptor is our record label.
Right.
We have Disruptor Creations is the film /TV /micro adventure, producing the all that content.
Right.
And so we've got a lot of different things going on, and I think it's a great problem to have. We have a great team, and we are kind of coming into our own as that kind of startup.
Right.
So I think that stuff is great. Maybe what's lacking or what's missing or what am I still kind of searching for? Since we've been talking about food, things are going so well on this entertainment side that I had to put another one of my passions on pause button.
Yeah.
And that's, this is my plant-based dessert business that I started, and I think I sent you one of the pictures I sent you was, I was, baking 3,000 plant-based brownies.
Yeah.
And there's no sugar added. It's a proprietary sweetener superfood blend thing, and it's got 12 grams of superfoods, and really exciting. But I'm a little busy, and so I can't. So I'm actually looking for some partners and some people that are in the plant-based, and or vegan community.
Right.
I prefer to identify as plant-based, but I'm not anti-vegan, but
Right.
They're different things.
Yes.
But I'm open to finding partners in either of those
get
pools.
It. Yeah. Who understand what it is you're trying to do.
Yeah. And so that's an exciting opportunity, but the buffet line and the person working that particular action station is they're not there. They went outside to take a break, and so that's something certainly I'm looking for is to find somebody that is aligned with just purpose driven, but because the reason I started that business was I've got 3 children, and they're always asking me for dessert every night. And I started giving them, these sugar-free, brownies and but just reinventing, the sweetener with a natural
Sure.
sweetener. So that's a fun opportunity, but I just don't have the
Not yet.
capacity.
Not yet anyway.
Yeah.
But I mean, at least, again, back burner. We put it on the back burner, low simmer, you drop the oven temperature to just keeping it warm,
Yeah.
and so you can round back to it. And I think that everything that you're doing right now is going to lead you back around to it, because everything we do eventually does, you know what I mean? Like, we always kind of circle back to that thing at some point. But at least you've already got the concept, you've already got it started, you have the vision for it, you know what you want it to be. So you've already kind of done a lot of that hard work, but it's just a matter of like now producing it and making it an actual reality. So that's great. That's really interesting. I know when I found out, when we got the diagnosis that my daughter had autism, I knew like one of the first things I had to do was take control of her diet in every way. So I chose to leave the restaurant industry so that I could devote myself to her, her wellness, her health in every way possible. And within, like, I would say the first 3 to 6 months, like, there was a huge difference in her behavior, because I was on top of everything that she was consuming pretty much. So I understand how important it is to maintain that health and well-being, especially when it comes to our kids, because they're already high energy anyway.
Yeah.
Like,
I actually think the correlation between the food and what you're talking about, it's definitely there, right? So having whether you're elevating the food or you're having it be cleaner, you're definitely going to see some good results and different results, which I think it sounds like you've been able to do that, which is great. And
yeah.
I've seen that myself as well in certain scenarios and certain friends and things that have gone through similar journeys. And I agree that I think that they also say that your gut and your brain have that correlation.
Yes.
And if people have mental health challenges, that maybe they're more or less affected by certain foods than others.
Right.
And really getting down to those triggers and really figuring out, what it seems like when we eliminate gluten, or we eliminate dairy, or we eliminate processed food, or we eliminate this thing or that thing, it actually can be really soothing and therapeutic for certain individuals. So that I would agree. I think that's great.
And so much trial and error, of course, with anything. You try it and it works, and then sometimes you just got to go back to the drawing board with it. But for the most part, like, we've kind of come to a happy place with that. So before we wrap things up, I wanted to ask you about what is Hollywood 3.0? What is that?
Yeah, that's something that we're pioneering at Disruptor Creations, and it kind of really starts with 3 different tenets. And the first one starts with transparency. Mm-hmm. And we're noticing that some of the things in the kind of old Hollywood was not necessarily driven by data and access to information and opportunities, and there was maybe less people that were gatekeeping and allowing artistic innovation to thrive. And so that was kind of a lot of what Hollywood 1.0 was. You could say Hollywood 2.0 maybe was where the streamers were starting to come in and challenge the status quo, which is great for the whole entire ecosystem.
Sure.
And so we're big on transparency, and we're big on having partners and being very artist friendly.
Right.
And so that's kind of that first tenet. The second tenet is technology. We really feel like we want technology. We want technology to serve creativity. So the creators, the artists, can maybe use some tools to expand and enhance what their vision is.
Right.
But I know that's a very sensitive topic right now in a lot of industries.
Yes.
And so we're very intentional about how we are implementing technology, even beyond the buzzword that is AI. I built my algorithm 10 years ago without AI, and we're now kind of enhancing it with some AI capabilities and doing V3 of the algorithm, but that kind of
Right.
leads into the third tenet, which is the ecosystem has really changed. And so we call the third tenet audience, because it used to be, you were excited because your movie made it into the movie theater and you thought, okay, I'm done.
I'm done.
That's not the case anymore.
It's not at all.
I took my kids to the movie theater a couple days ago, and it was pretty empty. And so you can't only rely on, putting your movie at the theater, and you can't only rely getting your movie onto one of the big streamers, because there's a sea of sameness and there's thousands of titles that are on those streaming apps, and you're one of many.
Yes.
And so marketing and really, we like to say BYOA, bring your own audience to the party. And so I've got a lot of experience in marketing, and in particular digital marketing and influencer marketing and social media marketing and all those kinds of things, and really pulling those right levers and finding those niche audiences. You mentioned that you had some passions in comic books and food and different things, and so finding those pockets of audience and building the right audience for each unique different film project is something that I'm pretty good at, and we've built some technology that can do that. So it really helps the filmmakers to be able to have more people get to experience their art, and give you a greater chance of success, because it's so competitive out there.
Yeah, it is. It really is. And just, being able to have a more thoughtful algorithm, something that is deliberately going out of its way to make sure that you're finding your people, like the right people to get in front of, instead of just like throwing the widest net you can out there and then hoping that, all these people, like, instead of it being like so random with who's going to take to it, like if you kind of gear it a bit more towards like the people that like it's being kind of made for. Well, obviously you're making it for everyone, but you also know that if there is some kind of an undertone there, like you want to like find the weirdos, and you want to find like the pirates and the left of center people that, the underdogs, and like, where are they? And where are the people lurking in the dark? Where are those people? I know you're out there too. That's great though. That's so exciting, because I think now more than ever, like, we really need something different and something new, and a boldness of spirit in creating something that hasn't been done before, rather than doing what everyone else has already been doing. And I understand that it works, it's formulaic, and it's safe, but it's too safe.
I think audiences are demanding more, they're craving more, and a lot of the stuff is sequels and remakes, and that's great. But I think in addition to that, it would be great to see some more original. Projects. And so we're creating original projects. We're partnering with we call them unicorn creators. We're partnering with artistic creators to really bring some of their original IP and original concepts to the screen. So that's exciting. And as you were saying, we certainly are pro weird and pro edgy and really looking for people that are willing to take some chances artistically and take some risks, because if you're not willing to take those risks, then you're not going to get, whether you're cooking or making a movie or making music, if you're not really going for it all, then you're going to get kind of the watered down version of things. And that's not really what we're focused on at Disruptor.
Yeah. I mean, that it's great though that you're really about kind of showcasing the originality and the authenticity of the individuals involved. Because like I said, I think that's what we really need, is something that's not so like, I mean, obviously we all want to make a buck, we all have to survive and, do what we need to do, pay our bills, but to not be so money driven about every decision that we're making, you know what I mean? Like, it's really just about what, getting as much as you can, rather than kind of leaving a mark, and doing something that has meaning to it. Discovering something that you've never heard of before, or like looking at something a different way, like having someone's individual perspective. It's unique to you. It's your story. There's no one else doing that. Like when I wrote my book, like I was very integral about, putting forward that the secret ingredient is you. Like you're it, like you're the sauce, like you're the one that's kind of bringing that special, whatever it is, something to the situation. And to be around people that are like-minded like that and encouraging for that is great. And it's a whole nother type of community that I'm seeing starting to happen, which is great. Like I love to see it. And I think because of everything going on around us, it's kind of pushing that along where it's like, okay, like it's now or never, it's go time to do all this. So that's awesome. I'm so excited for everything that you have happening. There's just so much, and it's all falling into place and coming together. And it just seems like the momentum's there now. Like you're in a good place with everything.
Yeah. It's been a lot of hard work to get up to this point. And as you were saying, I think we're at the point now where we're starting to attract our tribe, and that's, some artistic folks over here and some audience members over there.
Right.
And so we're starting to get, like you said,
the song has been sung.
Yes. Get our people, get our tribe.
Yeah. It's time to gather
get our disruptors. Man. The disruptors are united.
That's right. The disruptor crew. Let's go. Let's go. All right. So let me ask you my $1 million question here.
Sure.
If you could describe yourself as a 3-course meal, an appetizer, entree, and dessert, what would you be and why?
That's a great question. For the appetizer, I'm going to go with a 7-layer dip. I think there's a lot of layers to my personality and my style.
Yeah.
I'm a Gemini, so no matter what, we know I at least have 2.
Yes.
But then each of those 2 probably have 4, right? So there could be 8. There could be 8 of me out there.
So, it is a multi-layered dip. Yeah.
Yeah. So I need those layers. So I'm going to go with that dip, and then it could be on the main entree. Eggplant parm was always one of my favorite items, and
love it.
It's just I don't know. It's just that's the first thing that comes to my head. And as much as I try to say, well, I want to be a quinoa stuffed pepper because I've got these different layers as well. But to me, I'm gonna
keep it real.
I'm gonna go with eggplant parm. Yeah, exactly. And then for the dessert, I'm gonna go back to the layered theme. My mom's icebox cake, which have you had that before?
Yes.
Yeah. So for those in your audience that may or may not be familiar, it's layers of kind of like chocolate pudding and graham cracker, and it's stacked and layered, and you can put some sliced bananas in there. And
it's insane.
It's really good, and that was one of my birthday cake. That would typically be in a rotation, maybe sometimes pistachio cake, but the icebox cake, and again with the layers, I think I'm gonna go with the layers.
Yeah. I mean, it suits you. It makes sense, and I always say this, like I kind of use that question as a bit of a Rorschach test, because it kind of describes you. Like that's what it's meant to do. Like if you're going to present yourself, what would you be? And it makes sense that with all the layers and all the different nuances to you, that you would have, the 7-layer dip, and then you've got the eggplant parm. Like that's who you are, Chikoa, like come on, Jersey represent. There's
no layers required for the eggplant parm. It's just going to knock you in the teeth.
It is what it is. You already know what you're getting. Sit down and eat. Where's the bread? Where's the bread? Exactly. And then to finish with mom's dessert, that's awesome. To have, again, like it's a nice sandwich of who you are. It embodies you,
Yeah. And because you'll appreciate this more than most, because, food is so important for you. It's part of your identity, and my heritage and my family and food is also part of my identity. So, any Italian food, doesn't matter what it is comfort food.
Sure.
And it reminds me of, Sicily, and it reminds me of Jersey, and it reminds me of my family, right?
Yes.
And so that is just really a part of my identity. I would say the locations that have influenced my life I currently reside in Atlanta, but
Mhm.
not once in my life have I ever said I'm from Atlanta.
Right. Right.
That's not part of my story, of my
Right.
heritage and my identity.
Yes.
And I love Atlanta. It's a great place to live. But I didn't grow up here,
Right.
and my ancestors, were not here, so it's just a different way to talk about things. But
Sure.
food, I think, is a big part of identity, and the flavors of your childhood and the
Yes.
recipes of your heritage. And in particular, I learned how to cook from my Italian grandmother and
Mhm.
my Italian, mother. That they were a big part of me going down that path of
Yeah.
food, and I'm very thankful and appreciative that I learned a lot of the basics of that. Was
Yes.
my version of going to culinary school, was
Yeah.
chopping up the garlic and the onions and
Yep.
the spices and the seasoning and the
Yep.
flavors. And I've checked it out with my cousin who did go to the Culinary Institute, and he said, yeah, Ryan, the stuff you're doing, it does qualify as what we're talking about here.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like my grandmother, so my father's side of the family is Colombian, my mother's side is Puerto Rican, and I learned my cooking chops from my grandmother and my aunt, and they had us in the kitchen like very, very young. And I think one of my first memories was peeling plátanos, like going back to the plantain chips, like
Yeah.
peeling those, and like them showing me how to use my thumb to like kind of just get under the peel, because those things are they're tough to peel.
Yeah.
Especially for a little kid, like your hands are small and everything,
It's like a
but
mango.
just-
Nobody wants to do the mango. It's a pain.
I know, you're like, come over here, I got a job for you. Yeah. Like, but that's how you learn. But I learned by watching everything that they did, because especially with my grandmother, there were
How
no
old were you when you started?
4.
Oh, okay.
I was 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were kind of like, come here, like, make your stuff useful, like, because that's just where it began for me. But they were both very, very, very into cooking all types of food.
Mofongo.
Yeah, I mean, and even beyond like our own like ethnic stuff. I mean, I remember Gourmet Magazine, the New York Times, Bon Appetit. Like they were always pulling things from those magazines and creating dishes and things I'd never had before. Our holiday feasts were, lamb, goose, rabbit, on top of like the usual suspects of things. So, I was exposed to a lot. My uncle owned a seafood restaurant. So again, being exposed to seafood and different things. So, I'm lucky that I came from that background of people who were creative in that way. Also a lot of artists, musicians, the same kind of thing. And I think it's important that we continue that and keep those things alive, especially when it comes to those old family recipes. Because I mean, if we're not passing it on, no one else is going to do it. So it's important that you're reinventing them too, like you said. You're still kind of bringing them to the forefront and just modernizing them a little bit, giving them a little zhuzh, but still like paying, homage to your past and your life and where you're from, where you're at, and where you're going. So I feel like that's when you mentioning the brownies, right? That you're working on. So that's like where you're going, so it's like past, present, future.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. It's great. It's great.
It's a food story and a food journey.
It really is. And it's a great story to tell, so you may as well just let people know like that's what it is. Because again, like we said earlier, like it's a great way for them to feel related to you, relating to you on that. Cause like, oh, okay, I get that, that's
Yes.
awesome. That's awesome. So where can everybody find you online and stalk you?
Yes. So we're on Instagram, Disruptor Creations. Disruptor has the OR and an S for the creations. We're also on YouTube. I'm Ryan Bifulco. I'm on LinkedIn, just for me personally. And let's see what else. The band that we were talking about that we're just launching. We just launched it.
jamKIND. Yes.
jamKIND. It's jamKIND.music. So there's no .com required.
Okay.
And that's literally just launching, and we're about to drop the first 2 tracks. And there's a little preview on the website for that as well.
Yeah. Exciting. Lots of exciting stuff going on.
Yes.
That's great. Well, I thank you so much for taking the time to spend with me. And I know you're busy doing a million things, but it was absolutely a pleasure to have you here and talk shop. Like I said, we can go on and on and on because I don't know about you, but I like to talk.
Yeah, well, we'll have to definitely chop it up again,
Yes.
and cover some different food topics,
Oh my
and
goodness. Yeah, I
talk
feel like
about.
we could go on and on.
Yeah, so we didn't. Next time, maybe we'll talk a little bit more about the mystic and the cosmos and the cosmics, because I'm sensing that you're also equally as passionate about that as you are about food, and we do have a unicorn factory at Disruptor, so I'm sure we could talk about that a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely. I'm definitely part of the unicorn crew for sure.
Yes, part of the tribe.
Yes, absolutely. My horn might be a little this, but it's still there though, nonetheless.
Yes.
But thank you so much. I appreciate you for being here, and thank you all for watching us and being here with us. And we will see you again in the next one. Meow meow.
Thanks for having me, Chef Nikki.
Of course. Thank you.
Take care.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Mystic Meals Podcast. The Mystic Meals Podcast with your host and producer, Chef Nikki Meow. Kick-ass music by 3 Parts Acid. Follow 3 Parts Acid at 3 Parts Acid on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube. The amazing artwork by Art by Bruce 13. Follow Art by Bruce 13 on Instagram. And I'm your voice with the most. I'm Jason Neer. This has been the Mystic Meals Podcast. The Mystic Meals Podcast, copyright 2026. See you next time, kids.